Okay, let's see. I've got 9:31 just turned over, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I know I had a couple people tell me they'll be late today, so we'll let them join in when they join in. So good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Inner Circle Success Call for today. So as always, we got to start with celebration. So what are you celebrating today, everybody?
Well, I'm unmuted, Sherry, so I'll start. It's been a long time since I've been able to participate for no other reason other than I was silly and I scheduled classes that I teach online on Tuesdays. And so this one just happens to hit at the very tail end of the month and I don't have a class today. So I'm celebrating, we kicked off our COVID quilt and I know it sounds silly, but we have over 300 people across the country and several different shops who are participating, and it's a lot of fun to exchange fabrics and stories. It's been very therapeutic because I'm even working with a local therapist to get therapeutic information out to them, like regarding, personal paralysis where you just feel like you can't do anything. And so it's been it's been a therapeutic journey. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. Teresa Campos or Lisa?
I'll go.
Go, Teresa.
Yeah, I'm celebrating a couple things. I'm celebrating that my friend Lisa's back in her house. Yay.
Yes, that's a very big celebration.
Yeah. I'm also celebrating that I believe that I finally come to a, let's see, how would I say it? Come to full circle with my email situation with my client management system. So I think that's now going to be all cleared. And I'm also celebrating how much I am learning about sending out emails and what gets blacklisted and all that kind of stuff. So that has been like really, really huge for me right now, and understanding how to make that difference. So that's kind of been my little bit of my study over the last week. So that's what I'm celebrating.
Awesome. Sure. Well, you can share what you've learned. I think I know some things, but I know I got a lot to learn around that as well.
Yeah, how to get our emails through.
And it's so important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Lisa?
I'm celebrating waking up in my house this morning for sure, after 5 days of evacuation. So that feels good. I'm really just trying to find my grounding. So I wanted to come on this call so that I could I've been way off my business, obviously.
Sure.
But I was like, okay, I need to get back to normal. So I'm here to really just kind of soak it in and be in presence.
Okay.
But I do have some celebrations before all this happened. And I don't think I've been on here since the 8/8 Lionsgate. Have we been here?
I don't think it's a group. You and I have talked, but not as a group.
Okay, so I ended up having 187 people sign up for that webinar, which was awesome. And I had, I think 87 or 89 actually show up, which is also awesome.
Right.
I was a little, I wasn't having sales on the other side, which felt a little disconcerting. But in the end, I did end up with, I think, 4, maybe 5 people coming into the portal.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so that's a win. And my new VA is just kicking ass, which I'm really loving. And she's organizing my business, which is what I really need. So I'm really grateful. And this is the first time I've thought about business in a week. So that's my celebration.
That's a celebration too. So just for those that don't know, Lisa lives in a place that's impacted by one of the California fires, and had to evacuate her house for, you said, 5 days? It ended up being. And are you completely back to safety, Lisa? Do they have it contained?
Yeah, they let us know it's not contained by any means, but it's contained enough that it's not coming to our neighborhood. They're confident on that, or they wouldn't let us back.
Yeah.
The cutoff line is literally 1 street over. So like we just made it to be able to come home. So
yeah.
It's been intense.
Yeah, and I those of you that I haven't talked to, it hit close to home, if you will, for me too, because my neighborhood that I lived in when I was in California is, I believe, still evacuated. It was as of yesterday anyway, because of one of the fires as well. So we're sending lots of love and light and prayers to all the people impacted by the fires across California. Another videographer that I've worked with up in Santa Cruz, her house was burnt to the ground. There's just been a lot of loss, and we're sending.
Wait, who was that?
Her name is, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Not Brooke. Is it Brooke Bradford?
No, not Brooke. No, not Brooke. Oh, I'm trying to remember her name. It's been a long time since I worked with
It's
her.
okay. Brooke would be the only one that
Her
I know.
husband's name is Eric, and why can't I remember her name?
I don't think I know them.
No, I work with her through Joe's Hanan. I don't know if you know her. She's up in the Bay Area. She has Promote Her Business. It's a networking group up there. Elena is her name. Elena is her name. I can't remember her last name right now. In any event, oh, we got Dr. Elena on too. So anyway, a lot of people have been impacted. So we'll all send them love and good energy for rain and containment on the fires, because it's been nasty. Very cool. Welcome, Dr. Elena. We were just doing celebrations. So what are you celebrating this morning? Oh, you're muted. On the bottom row, there's there you go.
I have an extra day off this week because tomorrow I'm going to be celebrating my 60th birthday. So I was like,
congratulations. And we're glad that you're here, even in spirit, when you can't talk when you're at work.
That's so annoying, because it's like, really? I'm getting, because one of the ones things I had wanted to ask, and every time I get home, I'm always so tired that I just kind of like give up. And one of the things I had wanted to ask is, one of the things I'm having a hard time with is switching back over from that employee mindset back into the entrepreneurial soul. And it's like,
okay. So let's pause on that, and we'll take that as the first question. But before we go there, what are you celebrating besides being here, of course?
Just that I made it to the age of 60, and I'm finally getting organized here I have a very tiny apartment. It's like 428 square feet. And when you're trying to run two businesses and work full time, it doesn't work too well.
Right.
But I finally decided to concentrate more on the healing business and the book writing. So I'm shifting this morning. I started it yesterday, and I was going to finish it today. Is shifting all the jewelry and the components that I make, all my medicine bags and jewelry and everything, into the bedroom, so that I can bring the printer and the computer and everything out here, because I have more light and it's easier to write out here.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's a big celebration. Cool. Okay. So, what I wanted to talk about today, just for a few minutes before we jump into Q&A, and we'll start with your question, Elena, too. But what I wanted to hop into is, there was a theme that came up this last week as I talked with many of my clients, and that, true transparency, I'm experiencing myself, and that is consistency. And one of the things that I was talking with a client yesterday, and we were kind of debriefing on a program that she had launched that didn't go as well as she had hoped in terms of enrollments. It wasn't you, Lisa, it was another client. And we were talking about, okay, well, hindsight's always 20/20. If you had it to do over again, what are the things that you would have done that we can do for next time? And the biggest theme that came up was consistency. Was, well, I didn't, I got busy, so I didn't do follow-up emails as consistently as I wanted to. I had people on my list that I wanted to follow up with because they showed interest, but then they didn't sign up, and I didn't create the time to do it. And what really struck me is it was a good example of what I feel like I've been experiencing lately as well, with my personal priorities, with a lot of family stuff going on, and not feeling like I'm being as consistent as I need to. And the value of consistency shows up in our businesses in so many ways. not the results obviously are we get more clients when we're consistent. But the bigger thing is that consistency breeds momentum, and momentum breeds results, when results of course breed success in whatever it is that we want the results around. And so when we're not consistent, when we do a lot of stopping and starting in our business, and I see nods going on. When we do a lot of that stopping and starting, what ends up happening is we've got 3 energy workers actually on the call today. We block the energy. So the energy is kind of stop and start too. And the flow that we get into when we're in momentum can't give us what we want in terms of results in our business. So what I wanted to talk, well, first of all, I'll ask the question, has anybody else experience that, if not now, in their business where that consistency is a challenge? I see nods.
I would say that that's probably my biggest loophole in my business.
It's interesting choice of words. When you say loophole, what do you mean by loophole?
I mean the place where I lose the most momentum.
Okay.
Like it loops me back, and then I feel like I come back to start a lot, and I'm like, oh, let's get regenerated again. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so the lack of consistency makes me feel like I start over, like loop back to the start line.
Yeah. Yeah. And that stopping and starting is a little bit like multitasking, where we think we can multitask, but the truth is our brains are not wired to multitask. So every time we stop and start, it takes more time, because now we have to refine the energy, we have to refine the flow to start creating momentum again. So yeah, I definitely can see that.
And I think we risk alienating our clients because they might have been looking for something that was consistent from us, and as soon as they experience inconsistency, we lose them.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting you bring that up, because I don't know if anybody else noticed, I did have one client notice a week ago Tuesday, I sent out my 2 on Tuesday at 10 o'clock at night. And it was one of those things where I had recorded a video early in the morning and got distracted. I had clients, I had other stuff come up, and all of a sudden it's like, night, and I realized I had not sent it out. So I had a choice to make. Well, I can just say, oh, well, it's too late now, or I can follow through and at least it still is 2 on Tuesday, right? So I did it, and I just sent it out. And the interesting thing is that I got more comments, more actual email replies on that 2 on Tuesday than I have for quite a while. So, and it was a really simple one, because it was the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, which is another reason why I didn't delay, because it was that day. So yeah, so I can see that. And if we're not consistent in our emailing, you brought up emailing, Teresa, both Teresas actually, then our clients don't get that consistent message from us, and we either alienate them, or worse yet, in some ways, they forget us. Because if we're not top of mind, then when they are ready for that next, energy boost, or they want support around something, whatever it is that we do, they're not going to reach out to us because they've kind of forgotten us. Somebody else is top of mind for them. So yeah, I totally see that.
I think you bring up an interesting point too, in consistency, but also sometimes throwing something different in the mix too, right? Because I know for me, when I get an email at the same time from the same person, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's the same.
Yeah.
But, if all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, there's something new, or wait, there's something different, the mind catches it a little differently, like your time shift,
That's a good point, because it could have been more people opened it. I didn't look at open rate, actually. I should do that. More people opened it because it was unusual for me to send an email out in the evening. So yeah,
it was also the content you sent. That was different content for you. And I responded to you. I was one of those people that responded, and I really appreciated that content that you put out and how you wove it into what your business was. So I just, want to acknowledge that, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Cool. So the question really is, and we won't spend too much more time on this, but the question really is, how do we maintain consistency? Because we all recognize it. I've never run into someone that didn't realize when they weren't consistent, at least when pointed out. The challenge though is, how do you maintain that consistency? And so I wanted to share a couple of the tools that I find helps me, and then have others share things that help them. So a couple things that really work well for me. One is what we just were talking about with 2 on Tuesday. You all know, well, I teach consistently emailing your audience, and that, you know, you really need to be emailing. I say 2 to 3 times a week, you know, at least once a week at a minimum on a consistent basis. I'm the first one to say I struggle with it too. And one of the things that I did, and I started this, it'll be, well, it's going on 2 years, January of 2019. I was kind of like, okay, Sherry, you got to do something, because I was not consistently emailing my list. That's when I came up with 2 on Tuesday. And I'm one of those people that, you know, I'm kind of a mix, but I'm a bit of a rule follower. You know, I like things to be structured. And Teresa's laughing because she knows I don't always follow the rules.
No, she does. She does.
Yeah, right. But I do like structure. So for me, declaring that I was going to do a weekly video every Tuesday gave me the structure that I needed, that in that 19 months or whatever that is so far, I think I've missed four weeks when I haven't done one. And it's not been easy sometimes. I mean, it's been, you know, trying to come up with something, or, you know, recording something on the fly, but it's given me a structure so that I do it, because I've committed to my community that every Tuesday they're going to get a 2-minute tip. So that's something to think about, is where do you have things built into your business that are structures that help you maintain consistency? That works particularly around communication. The other one that I would say is the biggest thing that I've done for my business that has created consistency for me is, and this may sound funny, but it is declaring that I only coach, I'm going to put coach in quotes, Tuesdays through Thursdays. And the reason for that is, what I used to do is, I used to kind of be, well, whenever people can make it, I'd schedule the appointments. So I had coaching calls all spread out through my calendar, Monday through Friday. And that, I realized that I was kind of never off, and I never had big blocks of time to actually work on a lot of the things that I needed to work on that didn't happen in between coaching calls with an hour break. So by saying I only coach Tuesday through Thursday, and I have certain hours that I keep open each of those days, so it's not 8 to 5 either, but I have certain hours depending, frankly, on how many clients I have, it created consistency for me, because now Mondays are a content day for me. It's when I really try to work on new programs, new content, writing. You know, it's when I do my 2 on Tuesday usually, those kinds of things. Fridays are my flex day. Friday mornings are what I call collaboration mornings, where I try to schedule calls with people that could be referral partners, or I might work on like a gift giveaway or something like that. That's my Friday morning. And Friday afternoon are flex. Friday afternoons, I would say 50% of the time, I take the afternoon off. It's kind of my fun time, okay? That simple change in my schedule has made a dramatic improvement in my productivity and in consistency. Can you see how that would improve my consistency? Because I have that structure in place that helps me look at my week. Now, I know, Elena, for you, when you're working 9 to 5, that's harder and easier in some respect, because you have more limited time that you can create that structure in. I could go on and on other things that I think improve consistency, but share with me, what are things that work for you in terms of creating consistency in your life and business?
Well, I've adopted that thing that you do, Tuesday through Thursday. Mm-hmm. So Mondays and Fridays become admin days, and whatever you do on those days. And, but I have actually will take a client on occasion on a Monday or a Friday, but it's nice to have the open space and the option to do that.
Yep.
But I've recently, over the last just 2 weeks, I've gone back to being more strict about that for myself, because I need the time open, even if I'm just going to not do admin, Mm-hmm. So that's been really helpful to do the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But the one thing that I've seen that I've created in my schedule now, and I've got to fix it, is that like, but actually it's kind of nice. So like this week is like my light Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday week. I have appointments, but it's light. Next week will be heavy. So I need to balance now those two, the timing of my every other calls coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will share, Teresa, that I have kind of the same thing because of you. Most of you know the way I schedule my Results Accelerator program is they get the 2 group calls, and then you get the 2 one-on-one sessions, 1 or 2 one-on-one sessions. And so I have the same thing where I have this week, when it's a pretty light week for me because I have the group call, don't have as many one-on-one sessions, just my one-on-one clients. And then I have next week, I have all of my people that are in the Results Accelerator, so it's a heavier week. So there's sometimes you can and can't kind of flex that, but I certainly understand what you're saying. Anything else that you think is effective for you, Teresa Campos, in terms of continuity and consistency?
Well, I wanted to comment on the 2 on Tuesday real quick, is that had you sent that on Thursday, it wouldn't have mattered to me. As the receiver, it would not have mattered to me. Yeah. But what I do see consistency, which I had been so consistent with my Facebook Lives, and then I took a trip, a little vacation a few weeks back, and so I had to skip that whole week. I thought maybe I could do it on my trip, and I was like, I can't, I just gotta let it go. Is that people were like, kind of, where were you? And then now that but what I've decided is that twice a week was a little much for me to put that in my schedule. So now I've done Tuesdays at 2:30. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about it yet. But that twice a week worked. But again, coming up with content that feels organic sometimes became a challenge.
Yeah.
The Facebook Lives and being consistent with that has been super.
That's a great example. Cool. What else works for folks in terms of creating consistency?
Just had an idea, piggybacking off of you, Teresa. What I find is that if I do my Facebook Lives after I've had some clients in that day, usually something pops up in the client realm that I'm like, oh, that's good. And I pull that and go and do my live about it. That's been helpful to get back on order.
Feedback.
Yeah, I have a question about the consistency of your video on your 2 on Tuesday, Sherry. When do you shoot those videos, and do you shoot several at a time?
I do both, actually. When I was traveling full time, I would tend to do them usually 3 at a time. Don't ask me why 3. But usually I would shoot them 3 at a time, because if I was in an apartment, for instance, I would only want to tear the apartment apart to set it up to shoot once. But other times I'm doing them week to week. Some of it is how inspired I am. If I just happen to have 2 or 3 ideas, then I'll batch them and shoot them back to back. Sometimes then I don't even use them like the next 3 weeks, because they're not really timed. So I can, unless it's like the women's suffrage anniversary. So I can shoot 3 today and then come up with an idea I really want to use for next week, and then just move that into next week's slot. So I do both. I like batching them when I can. If I know I have travel coming up, then I will shoot them in advance. So it's nice to have that option. I think that answers your question.
Okay, that brings up another question.
Okay.
So I have consistency with my email list in that every Sunday a channeled message goes out. It's called Spirit Speaks. And so it's a consistent, just channeled message offering. I'm feeling like it would be really wise to do like a Wisdom Wednesday or something like that. I feel like my people need a little bit more personalized from me, and I've been resistant in that a little bit. But I'm also realizing I could pull Facebook Lives and then use those as content for my Wisdom Wednesdays.
Absolutely.
It's all about repurposing now, finally, after 700.
Absolutely. Yeah, and now you've got the VA that can download all of them, and you write a short email that is congruent, obviously, with the content in that Facebook Live, and then you send them. And by the way, that also is going to get people on your email list that aren't in your group to join your group.
Exactly. Yeah. And there was also one other thing that I wanted to throw in the mix that was really supportive after the webinar was I actually put out to my list, consult time. And that's what I found, like when people really just want to talk to us, right? And then I found that when I got on the phone with them, I think I had like 8 people sign up for a consult. And then that was what turned into the signups for the thing.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know this isn't new information, but it's like I'm finally getting it somehow, and it works. So thank you.
Yeah, it does work. It's consults, as long as you're selling a relatively high ticket program, or it's something like a membership site that people are going to be a member of, at a minimum, your intention is a minimum of 6 months. It has to, you don't want to be doing one-on-one consults for $197 product. That's, not necessarily the right move. Like what Teresa Campos is doing from the Facebook ad is she's doing a $297 a one-off session for a lot of people, but the intention is that then they upgrade into her 6-month program. So that's okay too. That's another strategy, which actually, Teresa, is something I want to talk to you about. I don't know why I was thinking about you the other day in that strategy, but anyway, I'll come back to that. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Lisa. It's another consistency. How many consults are you doing each week? Because for most of us, whether it's Teresa with quilt shop owners and doing consulting, or the rest of us that are doing more traditional, if you will, coaching, it's that one-on-one consult that usually turns into that client, whether it's for a one-on-one program or for our group programs. And, there are all different ways to get those consults. And sometimes it's as simple as what Lisa just shared, sending out an email after a webinar that you did. Another one that I'll share, since we're kind of on tactics now, there's something, I think I've shared the 9-word email with most of you, haven't I? Does it ring a bell? There's a strategy. I don't know who came up with it initially. It was one of the gurus, called it the 9-word email. And all it is on occasion, you could probably do it every couple of months, maybe. You send out an email to your list, and the email says something like, "Hey, Teresa, are you still interested in learning how to make your business location independent? ? Hit reply and let me know." That's all it says. And people respond. It's really kind of interesting. I don't do it as often as I could, but I have done it, and I typically will get 15 to 20 responses. And many of them don't turn into anything, but I have gotten a couple clients from it. So if you get, a couple of clients every time you do that, and you do it, even if you did it once a quarter, that's 8 new clients a year. So it's an easy one. And oh, by the way, that's a consistency thing with your list. It's just asking them, "Hey, are you still interested in, in discovering your true soul purpose?"
And then do you follow up with them with an invitation to get
No, but then you start a conversation. And now the conversation in this case is via email. So what happens is I'll have people respond to me and say, "Absolutely, I want to travel full time," let's say. And then I will respond to them and say, "That's amazing. Tell me what your business is right now." And I just ask questions and start that conversation. Now that's via email. Quite honestly, it's somewhat easier to start conversations via Facebook Messenger than it is email, because we all know how email kind of drops in our lists. And I'm doing that right now, actually, with the Facebook ad campaign, and I'll probably share with you results on that next week. I was going to do it today, but I think it's a little too early. So next week I'll probably share kind of what's happening with that strategy that I'm using. But these days, particularly, I think COVID, world we're in, I think people are longing for connection even more than ever. And if you can just have a conversation with a human, it's amazing what you can create. I have a strategy session tomorrow, I think it is, with a gal that responded to me on Messenger in this case. And she's in the early stages of starting her business. We had like 3 or 4 text messages back and forth. And then I just simply said, "Hey, if you're interested, I'd love to do a complimentary consultation. This is exactly what I work with people to put in place in their business. Are you interested?" And she said, yes. I sent her the link. She's on my calendar. Okay. So it's another way to get those consults that we were talking about.
I also realize in doing more consults just what good boundaries I have to have, right? Because I mean, people they're like, woohoo, I get to be with you, and and they just want to like, and I'm like, okay, you have 15 minutes. This isn't a session. I'd love to listen to you, but the purpose is to see how I can best support. Like it really, like I realize that people really think, everybody, they want to be your friend, which is really
Absolutely.
sweet.
Absolutely. And
But-
that's particularly important if they already know you, Lisa, if they've been in your community for a while. If it's a cold lead, it's a little easier because they don't have that relationship with you. But one thing you do want to do on consults, on warm leads, is you do have the option, if you put out, like I was talking about the 9-word email, if you put that email out and somebody responds, you don't have to offer them a consult, first of all. Or if they get on your calendar somehow and they've already done 2 free consults with you before, you have, it's kind of the reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. You completely have the right to send them an email and say, hey, I saw you showed up on my calendar. I really enjoyed our conversations. My time's really limited right now. And so I'm happy to talk to you if you're at a point where you want to consider working together. And if not, no worries, we'll just cancel your call. And you totally have that ability to do that. And you're giving them complimentary time, so you have to set those boundaries. Cool.
I have a comment on that,
Yeah.
which I just went through my for my Facebook ads, right? So you know how you had me make another link so it's separate from Facebook. Anyway, so I created that new link. So I went into my email settings of like, what does it say when they respond? And one of the things that I've got more clear with and more direct with is honoring the integrity of time to show up for the appointment.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't know if this is in all businesses, but I'm going to speak from my business of where we're dealing with, spirituality and spiritual integrity period, is that a lot of times, because I feel like, people that are really in that integrous place will then either honor it or not honor it, and either will opt out. Because I said in so many words, like, you can not do this or do this. And, so sign up. If you're going to sign up for the time, then keep the time, don't just blow me off. Of course I didn't say it like that. I said it in a better way, but that's something that's like doing these Facebook ads, because it's all cold calls. It's like, I can't waste my time by just having you sign up. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it's so true. And just, that you have to not get attached to it when it's cold leads. It's not about you when they don't show up.
No.
Usually anyway. Usually it's about them, or it's about something, and maybe not making it clear, and getting more strict on your boundaries, if you will. But
right.
Yeah, very good point.
Because when I was in the hair business, people will take whatever you give them. Can you squeeze me in? And then their emergency becomes your emergency. And that's how I did it for a while. And then finally it's like, okay, if I don't put this boundary up, then I am just going to be exhausted.
Yep. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's what I'm really practicing with this business. And it's constant.
Yeah, and that's living your values and being in integrity for you too. And you're going to attract people that are going to honor that. And, we've talked about this before. When somebody doesn't show up for a consult, I give them a pass the first time. And allow them to reschedule once. If they don't show up again, they'd almost have to really convince me in order for me to have them be a client, because how somebody shows up in that courting period is how they're going to show up as a client. And if they show up needy, if they show up as a victim, if they don't show up at all, that's how they're going to show up when you're working with them as a client. So listen to those clues in the consults. That's one of the best reasons to do consults, is you get to choose who you work with, because you don't have to make an offer, right? Cool.
I'm going to pop up again.
Yeah.
made my intake process for my free consults kind of extensive now. Like they have to answer some serious questions and really think about it. I feel
Yep.
like that's helped weed out some of the like,
Yes.
I don't know, like they have to be intentional. They're like, wow, this is quite a process. And I'm like, yeah, like that's how I want you to show up, being really
Yeah.
prepared, you know?
Yeah, applications are critical in reducing no-show rates because you get people naturally that are more committed, and you learning a little bit about who they are before you show up on the call, so you're more effective for them usually. You don't have to do the pleasantries, if you will, or the basic kind of foundation stuff. You've already got it on the application. I've shared with, I think I've shared with all of you that I've recently hired a Facebook ads agency, and the application that you had to fill out to get a session with him. This was pure first complimentary session, kind of standard stuff, but it was pretty extensive. But when you got to the end, I can't remember the language, but it basically said, it's going to cost you $3,000 to $5,000 a month to work with me. If that doesn't work in your budget, then we're not a good fit. So don't waste my time. I mean, that's in essence what it said. And so at first I was kind of taken aback. It's like, wow, that's really pretty aggressive. But then I kind of realized, you know what? It's also honest. And I'd rather know that and not waste my time either if it's not a good fit. Now, I don't do it quite that direct. I ask the question, how committed are you to moving forward? And do you have the finances to invest in your business? I ask those two questions. And if somebody says they're not committed and they don't have the money, then I will cancel the call. Because if they're not committed and they don't have the money, I don't care what their problem is, they're not gonna move forward. So yeah, so it's a great part of that pre-qualifying process. Very cool. Well, I think we kind of went off on a lot of little tangents, but some good tangents there in talking about consistency and how important it is in growing our business. So let's move now. And any other burning comments before we move on? Okay, so let's move on into questions. So Elena, let's start with yours that came up during celebrations. So what I heard you say was that you know, you're in the position where you're working full-time, trying to build your business nights and weekends, basically. And that's a challenge. Tell us a little bit more about that and what your challenge, how you're being challenged with it.
Well, most of the time, like when I was running my business full time when I lived in Arizona, I worked through a spiritual store. So I was able to get clients there because I worked there on Fridays and Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And then I would fill in for my mentor on Wednesdays if he had a client or was something. So I had access to people that were looking for what I do. And then plus we would also do spiritual fairs and psychic fairs. And so I had the time to be able to do it. So it was very easy to immerse myself with like-minded people and find clients that way. Mm-hmm. I would either do the readings at the store, or if they wanted a past life regression or a soul retrieval, then I could go to their home or have them come to my home and do it that way. So now that I'm back to working full time, now I no longer have my weekends at all. I mean, I was invited to join the Mind Body Spirit Fair, which I've been trying to get into for years, but they've always been in different states than what I have lived in. Mm-hmm. So they decided to go virtual this year because of COVID.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's on a Friday, or it's on a Saturday and a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And the place I'm working at right now absolutely refuses to let me ever have a Saturday or Sunday off. So it's creating stress there. Okay. Because I see all these opportunities coming to me, mm-hmm. and I'm not being able to take advantage of them.
Right.
While at the same time, like even to get today off, they didn't just let me have the day off. I had to work 6 days in a row last week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And to me, I'm like, I'm entitled to a vacation. Let me have a vacation day, you know, where I can just have the time to work on my business and myself. And so it's getting frustrating because the hours are getting longer. So instead of 9 hours a day, now last night I had to work 10 hours because we had a customer. And so, it's 10 hours at work, a half-hour drive each way.
Right.
So by the time I get home, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. So normally it's five days on and 2 days off, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And do you have structure in place for the time that you do have off of how you're going to use that time towards your business?
Normally I do, but by the time, usually what happens is I'll wake up on Wednesday, because I usually have Wednesdays and Thursdays off. And by the time Wednesday gets there, I'm so exhausted. It takes me almost a full day to recover from being on my feet, running around a store for 5 days.
So what you're sharing is, first of all, I applaud you, because working a full-time job and trying to start a business is not easy. And most people that do it, they're working, 70, 80 hours a week. I'm not going to lie. They just are, because they're still working the full 40 hours a week or more with travel time and everything else with their job. And they're doing their business nights and weekends in between things. So it really is, I think it's a bit of a taking a step back to what do you really want? It's going back to your mission, your vision letter that you wrote, and really getting clear on what is most important to you. Because you will make time, Elena, for the things that are important to you. Values is what Teresa Campos is saying, absolutely. So yeah, it's like, what is most important to you right now? And if this business is what really is the most important thing to you in your life, then what are you willing to give up to make it happen? Does that make sense? You don't have to answer the question, but just to make sense.
Yeah.
And really getting clear on what are the most important things that you can do that are going to move your business forward, and only do them, and staying very focused on those. What are the actions that I can take today to move my business forward? And all of a sudden those little actions become big results. But your vision your vision has to be bigger than the obstacles that get in your way. I know you've been working on kind of the vision and mission. If your vision isn't bigger, if having this business isn't bigger than the obstacle of working hard and being on your feet and getting home and being exhausted, then you're going to, you're going to struggle. I'm just going to be honest. You're going to struggle to move it forward. And I know financially, oftentimes you can't just quit. I get that. So it's like, you've got to find that balance. But the most important thing is coming back to your vision. What is important to you, and how committed are you to having this happen? And so my suggestion, and I see Teresa nodded, Teresa Campos was talking about values. Anybody else, chime in here. My suggestion would be go back to the work you did around vision, and really look at your vision letter and make sure that vision lights you up. Post it on your mirror in your bathroom and read it every day before you go to your job, your job, and when you get home from your job. So you've always got that top of mind, motivating you to work on that, Wednesday morning when you really don't want to get out of bed because you've been working the last 5 days, 10 hours a day. Anything else? What comes up when I share that?
Oh, it totally makes sense, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to wrap around. It's getting to the point where after yesterday, I was just like so fed up. It's like, okay, I don't even care anymore. I have money in the bank. If you guys don't back off and leave me alone, I'll just quit so I can do what I know I'm supposed to be, doing. Because right now, writing that book when they told me I was writing the wrong book and I needed to switch and write the Psychic Pet Tales book, I was like, oh my God. And even at work, I said, okay, if customers came in, I would go say hello and ask them. But then it was right back to that little notebook I got in my welcome thing. I was writing out, another story. Somebody, nope, okay. So it's like, and it's so funny because ever since then, the stories are just popping up, memories that I have
So
forgotten.
listen to that. Listen to that.
Mhm.
And that's part of the vision. Maybe the vision is altered a little bit and you need
Yeah.
to relook at that.
Okay. Yeah, because it is, when I think about when I was a kid, well, not only did I get ridiculed because I talked to the animals. I mean, they did call me Dr. Doolittle. My parents were nuts. But one of the things I always said is I was going to work with animals
Uh-huh.
and I was going to be a teacher. So of course, most kids and the parents, you're like, oh, you're going to work with animals, you got to become a veterinarian. So I went to vet school. And I worked as in vet tech for many, many years. And I also trained to be a teacher. So, but if you think
As our
about,
life takes to take.
yeah, but when I think about, wait a minute, I still work with the animals
Right.
and I still teach, just not in a conventional way. But that really, when I start talking about the power animals and how they work with us and the messages and the information and the wisdom that they share with us on how we can make our lives better, it's just the stories, it does, it lights me up because it's so fun.
So what's the next big step that you need to take forward to make the business a reality? What's the next specific action step you need to take?
Well, for me today, part of this weekend is what I really want to get. I have the ideas, of the stories, but that's why I'm trying to set this up so I can get my computer up and running over
What's
here.
the specific action? Tell me the specific action.
So what I'm going to do is literally write the stories out in book format.
Okay. And by when are you going to have that complete?
Hopefully by Thursday.
Okay, hopefully, or you are?
No, I will have it done by Thursday. I have a list of, I think there's 10 more stories that I have to write up. And it shouldn't take more than probably a day and a half.
Okay, so my request is that by midnight Thursday night, you send me a message in the Hotline to Sherry portal and tell me that you've completed the stories.
By midnight Thursday?
Thursday at midnight. Okay?
You got it.
And if you need support in the meantime, send me a message through the portal.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Who else has a question?
I have a comment and a question.
Oh, please.
I just want to say thank you for saying your vision must be bigger than your obstacles. Like that was really a powerful statement that you said. So I so appreciate you saying that, Sherry. And then my other comment is that one of the things that I will say to myself, and I'll say this often to clients, is are you willing to let everything go to choose what your path is?
Mm-hmm.
And that just came up when I was listening to Elena speak, because I just feel like that is so powerful that it comes down to choice.
Say it again. Are you willing?
Are you willing to let go of everything, really everything in your life, whatever it is you need to let go of in order to follow what your, life path is, what you know it to be, what you feel in your heart? So I have my question is, my first question is to Lisa McCardle, is I would like to know what camera that you got. Remember you had shared that with us one time? Yeah, can you give me that if you have it?
It's the H, it's from, is it L-O, it's L-O-G-I?
It's
Logic?
Logitech. Yeah.
Logitech, yep.
It's the HD 1080p.
HD 1080p.
That's what it says on the top of it. You know what? I have the box.
I'm going to pull this off for a minute. It has a number on it, I believe. I think
you have it, Sherry?
Yeah, it's the same one I have. I think it's an 820. For some reason, I can remember it being a model 820.
Okay.
I send it to Lisa, so I can send it to you as well.
Okay, perfect. And then, so my question on that is, so I have a Mac. It just has a USB port thingy?
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
there you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Here, if you put it on speaker view and then have Lisa talk and you'll see it.
Okay. All right. Well, I see it. No, I see it good. Yeah,
I'll take a picture and text it to you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, Lisa.
So that's a 920, is that right, Lisa? 920 Pro, okay, good.
Okay, so my other question is, and this has to do with the whole getting my emails through, is that the long story that doesn't matter, but now I have a new email address, which is no longer my Teresa Campos. Teresa@teresacampos.com is now Teresa@teresacampos.net. And so because that's a new email, it has to be warmed, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm sending out an email that I created last night to all of my list, and I titled it, I would love to hear from you.
Okay.
And so all I want from them is just to respond. And so I put in the email, what I said in the email, I won't read it all, but to the effect of, you know, in my efforts to not be flagged as a spammer, I just kind of out front with it, my community. I'm asking that for you to respond to my email, if they can respond to my email. And so that this way, you know, my email thing gets all working how it needs to get. And the other thing that I did is I put in a video, a YouTube video of something, one of my Facebook lives in there, say as a thank you, I'm off, you know, I'm putting this in there. So anyway, I just want a little bit of feedback around that, but and also what it'll do is it'll give people the opportunity to unsubscribe if they want, which I'm happy for them to do if they don't want the emails. But I like keeping my list as clean as possible, and I want my emails to go through.
Yeah. So one thing it doesn't feel, I don't know, it feels spammy to say I don't want to be flagged as a spammer. So respond. So I'd soften that language a little bit, and I would say something like,
I didn't say it that direct.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it like that.
I would just say, you know, you may notice this is a new email address for me. I'm upgrading my systems.
Oh, I like that.
It would really help me out if you would hit reply and tell me that you get this.
Okay.
So that my system knows that I'm legit or something like that. Just make it a little softer. And oh, by the way, as a thank you, here's a video. So you're kind of adding value for them responding as well.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And so on the thank you so much, Sherry. I knew that you'd find a way to say that. So then on the email, like I put, I would love to hear from you. How's that sound? Is that okay?
I would, the subject line that it's worked well for me is I have a favor to ask, because people love to do favors and your community is engaged. They love you. So they're going to want to do you a favor. So I would consider that. Yeah. And by the way, you could send those 2 emails, send it out with one of us like, I'd love to hear from you, send it out to your whole list. And then 3 days later, send another email with I have a favor to ask to everybody who didn't open. So you can send the exact same email with 2 different subject lines, like 2 or 3 days apart.
Yeah.
And you probably want to, since you're trying to run the email anyway.
I don't know that I can separate that right now with my system. So, okay.
Okay. I bet you can, because you can track open rates, right?
Not completely as well as they want to. They haven't got all that system in place yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But,
Well, then maybe send them a week apart. You know, but that's probably okay.
Yeah, just in case you didn't get this message or something.
Yeah, exactly. And before we move on, I'd love Teresa Kanan to share, because she is the queen of cleaning her list. She is
cool.
I was going to say she's obsessed. I don't know if she's obsessed about it, but Teresa, can you share just a little bit about what you've done with your list and how you've kept it so pristine?
Sure. So one of the things that I do, like Teresa Campos, when I changed from one email address to my website email address, I sent out an email that had a link in it that they could click on, where I had a short video that showed them how to whitelist my email address. Okay. So, and the header is, you're not going to want to miss this. That was my subject line. And so by clicking on that link, whether they watched that or not, or whether they added me to their whitelist or not, I was there. Mm-hmm. I'm now part of their safe senders. And so I showed how on Mac and on HP or on Windows, how to whitelist or put me on your safe senders list. One of the other things that I do, Sherry, you talked about that 9-word email. Every 90 days, now I don't have a VA, so You guys are all way ahead of me on this. I have college kids that work for beer. That's what I have. So every 90 days, I cull my list. So we'll send out an email. It'll be real short, and it will have, again, a link in it, and it'll be a link for a free pattern or this. It might just be a picture or an image, but they've got to click on the link in order to get whatever that is. And we send those to the people who haven't opened in 90 days. Because if they haven't opened my email, because I'm into that timely email, so I'm with Sherry on that. In as much of what I do, if you don't open it in a timely way, you're going to miss out on something. And that's one of the things I teach again, I'm teaching quilt shops in the retail industry because I'm trying to get them to get those repeat clients to come back and follow them. And if they're not consistent, they're not going to be followed. You can't follow somebody who's not consistent. You can't follow somebody that you got to guess when they're going to come out next or when the next video is going to be. You can't follow that. And our clients, we'd love to believe that they're loyal, but the truth is they're loyal until they're ticked off, and then they'll go find somebody else to be loyal with. So every 90 days, I cull my list. So my open rate is super duper high. It's not uncommon if I'm in the middle of a program where they're getting something or doing something every 2 weeks for my open rate to be in that 75 to 90%. I know it's huge, and it's a very big deal. And it was like that when I was with Constant Contact, and it's like that now with my website. But if I can get my clients to open the emails, then the buy, that's the easy part. I just have to get them to open.
Right.
And so once I've knocked that out, once I've trained my clients to open the emails, literally what will happen is it's like they're notifying me when they get a new email address. They're not waiting for their emails to bounce because they don't want to get missed out. And I'm also a big meanie and a toughie. If I'm sending something out and you have to download it in a certain number of days and you don't get it free anymore. It's going to cost you some money. And we end up making a lot of money on the back side of that. And I say, gosh darn, that's just a shame you didn't download that when you were supposed to. I hope the next time you do. And that's
$7 now.
It's not free anymore. So I do really work very hard at training the clientele because we live in a very spoiled age where people like when you talk about the people who miss their consultation because it wasn't as important to them as what it was to you. And your time is much more valuable than that. And you can fill it with people who honor your time, or you can waste your time on people who don't honor your time.
Right.
So,
Yep.
So Teresa, I have a question about that video you created. So you created it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
so
I
used Zoom.
I don't know how to do that in terms of like, oh, this is how you do it. So I'm not whitelisted. So are you willing to share that or?
Oh, sure. And also it's real simple in as much as you can just go online and look that up. But there's lots of them out there. All I did literally is I went to 2 different computers and I used Zoom.
Yeah.
And I shared screen where then the arrow went to the actual, like whether you were on Mac or whether you were on a Windows platform, showed where you can go up into the junk icon. And so then it's my voice. And so that's what was important was it was me teaching them. So yeah, I'm happy to share, but you want to do that in your voice. Like with Sherry's 2 on Tuesdays, I could take a 2 on Tuesdays and forward them on as being really awesome for my quilt shop customers, but I'm much better off, taking that same concept and having it be my voice and my personality. But all I did was I use Zoom because it has such a great, now Facebook's getting better, but they're not as good about me switching cameras as what Zoom is. And I can have like 3, 4, 5 different cameras going, and I can have 2 or 3 screens, and I can just kind of share the screens that I want.
You don't have to go that
Then I have to edit it out.
Well, Loom.
No.
Really
Teresa Campos, I mean.
Yeah, I would probably just do it on Loom because Loom is
Yeah.
easy. I can share screen. I like Loom for that.
Right. Right. So do that, and then like take a part where you're working on a Mac and take one where you're working on a Windows, and then just splice those two together and let people know that you don't want to miss what I have to say later, because it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. It's going to be important.
And
Okay,
And
thank you. Thank you.
I know you were saying, Teresa Campos, that you don't know how to do it in terms of how to whitelist.
I'll just YouTube it.
Yeah, you can YouTube it. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually do. I don't do it from the computer browser. I actually do it for how to whitelist on Gmail and how to whitelist on Outlook. Either one works. Those written instructions are actually in the welcome email that I send out when people join my list. But I think it's a great idea to do the little video. And yeah, I'm sure there's 110 YouTube videos out there on how to do it as well. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
If nothing
That's
else,
super
you get them thinking that they had to do an action
miss
in
it,
order
yeah.
to receive information from you.
Yeah.
So.
And I think thank you for sharing that, Teresa Cannon. That what I want you to hear in what Teresa shared is a clean list is incredibly important for your deliverability rates. So it used to be all you want is a big list. And I would much rather have 1,500 people on my list that are engaged and they're giving me open rates. You know, of course, any of us would die to have Teresa Cannon's open rates. I'm not going to say that that's probably going to happen, quite honestly. But I mean, most of us would die to consistently have 20, 25% open rates. And we'd be well above anybody in the industry average, instead of maybe on an email here and there. Getting a clean list is part of what will get you that, because the more people you have on your list that are undeliverable or that have never opened an email from you, the less of a good job that the Gmails of the world does in getting your email in the inbox instead of it landing in spam or promotions.
And that was a huge part. Sherry, you were huge with helping me with all of that at the beginning when I first started doing my email marketing a gazillion years ago. But that cleaning up my list, that's probably one of the things that I started teaching at Quilt Market to other quilt shops for a long time ago. And I would have online shops arguing with me, like they wanted to have a list of 30,000 people. And I'm like, well, really, how many are your customer? If 2,000 of that 30,000 are your customer, you are wasting your time, your airspace, and you're killing yourself. And so when I take those people off the list, I take them off and I do put them on a separate list, and like once or twice a year, I'll email to them. And if they buy from that, or if they open from that, I'll add them back onto my list. But, you know, I don't need to be the place where people are acting like a tourist. Like maybe they pop in and maybe they don't. I'm not Amazon. So I don't need that sort of a client. I need the one that I know is going to open my stuff.
We want engagement is what we want. I mean, with Teresa, it's more of a retail business, so she's more, at least in her old business, you're transitioning too. But yeah, so I think the goal from us as coaches is engagement. We want people that are opening, that are clicking on links, that are coming to our webinars and downloading our free gifts and showing that they're interested in that the value that we're giving them is worth it to them to take action.
One of the other things I do that helps me to grow that list organically through email, not through Facebook, but through email. When I have something that I'm offering that's going to be free, I place it as a product on my website, and they have to click on it and they have to put it in, if it's an electronic download, they have to put it in their shopping cart. And by doing that, I'm capturing name, phone number, but the most important thing is I'm capturing an accurate email address, because they can't get it unless it gets emailed to them. Right. And so when they turn around and share it out with all their friends, like, oh gosh, for 2 weeks, she's going to have this, you know, this whatever video or whatever for free, those people then get added to my list. I didn't have to go find them. Right. And they're people that are friends of my clientele. So of course they're my new clients.
Yeah. So, and you can do that with a free gift. You can do that with an opt-in page. That's the same concept, because most of you don't have a full shopping cart to be able to do that. Cool. Great ideas, Teresa. Thank you. Teresa,
can I ask a question of everyone?
Yeah.
Does anyone have experience with networking groups such as P&I or eWomen's Network or PWN or Polka Dot? Or groups like that? Any of them been successful
I've
for your
experienced
business?
with eWomen.
Mm-mm.
Has it been positive, Teresa?
It was, that's of course pre-COVID.
Right.
It was a really good place for me to network with women in my community. I really liked that. I did have the opportunity to meet, I forget her name, the woman, the head of it. We sat at a table. She's really a really nice lady. It's truly not my, it just became, for me personally, like a girls club, a women's club, which wasn't my jam, but it was really good to connect with the women in my community, and I got some really good contacts and that sort of thing. So yes, it was worth it for a period of time, without a doubt. Yes.
I would say on eWomen specifically that eWomen is better, in my opinion, for people that want to be speakers, because once you speak at the first eWomen group, you get kind of in the club, and then if you spoke at the XYZ chapter of eWomen and you contact the ABC chapter and say, hey, I spoke at XYZ, then the chances of you getting approved are a lot higher. And then once you speak at several chapters, then it makes it a lot easier to get on the speaking for a workshop at the annual convention. And so you're getting noticed, if you will, by mostly good quality contacts, at least Judy for your contact, because they're small business owners. Many of them need support. And you're getting credibility because of the speaking. But as far as the events themselves, going to an eWomen, and again, back when they were live, going to an eWomen event, there's a lot of people that are there to get business, generally speaking. And so that can be difficult. And yes, you're right. Teresa Campos saying there are hoops to jump through to become a speaker. And that's very true. They do look for more experienced speakers, but Judy, I mean, you've been speaking other places, so I think, it would be worth looking at. I'm
Anyone been in Polka Dot?
Polka Dot, my experience with Polka Dot, I had a client that started the Polka Dot chapter in Santa Rosa, I believe it was somewhere up Napa area. She was very positive about Polka Dot. She started a chapter, and I'm not sure she would do that again, to be honest, because it was a lot of work to start a chapter, and financially it was a pretty big outlay to start a chapter. But she did get clients from it. She met a lot of great women and got clients from it. The thing is when you mentioned like PWN is the Monterey based version. Is that where you found PWN?
No, I can't remember.
Okay. The Professional Women's Network is an organization that's in the Monterey Bay that I was highly involved in for almost 20 years. And I got a lot of clients from it. The thing that whether it's, BNI, whether it's PWN, whether it's eWomen, whether it's Polka Dot, whether it's Promote Her Business, all of those networking events, the thing is that you get much more out of them when you become highly involved. And so as networking, if networking is one of your core strategies, what I would recommend is that almost all of those organizations will let you attend a couple of times as a non-member.
Right.
Go, say, okay, September is going to be my Find My Networking groups month. And right now it'd be virtual, unfortunately, but attend the virtual events twice and contribute as much as you can, be active and see who's there. And is your ideal client in the room, whether it's virtual or live?
Right.
Once you know, yes or no, then how does it feel? Do I connect with these people that are in this group or not? Because sometimes it could be the right clients, but you don't connect with them, right?
Yeah.
And then if the answer to that is yes, so they are your ideal clients, yes, you connect with them, then pick no more than 3 that you join.
Oh yeah, I would only do like 1 or 2.
And that's the next thing I was going to say about live networking. I've shared, I think I've shared with you, Judy, too. I built my business for 17 years, basically, on live networking and speaking. and referrals and we're kind of the third arm that were more passive. All I did was found networking groups that had more my ideal clients hung out. I went to the events on a consistent basis. I'm going to come full circle to consistency. And I engaged, I spoke at the events in a lot of cases. I added value. You know, I was a resource for people when they had questions or whatever. And I invited people to consults. And that's how I got my clients for a lot of years.
Great.
You know,
Thanks everyone.
so yeah, so just be choosy, because networking, live networking just takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. Different question is,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about email marketing, and do any of you use the same email like as a blog on your website, or is it solely just email? Do you do anything with your website?
I don't think anybody here has a blog, do we?
I do. I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Can you
So
repeat it?
recycling your email content as a blog or a social media post, because you've written that newsletter, right? Instead of using it just once in your newsletter, why not recycle it to different channels?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So a couple ways you can do that. Taking pieces out of your email for social media posts. And then in a lot of cases in the story style email, you know how we've talked about story, I'm going to get my words wrong now. Story challenge hook. So it's you tell the story of, this is what was happening. Here's the challenge. Here's what to do about it, is kind of the format of the email. Those emails can get pretty long. And in a lot of cases, they can be repurposed to literally take most of the content and put it on your blog. So the thing with blogs is that you've got to monetize a blog. And the thing with a blog is that every blog has to have a call to action, just like every email does. And you've got to use the real estate in a blog effectively. So I've seen blogs where not only is there no call to action, but there's no right sidebar that gives people a chance to opt in for something else. You're missing two huge opportunities. So just like when you write an email, you'll have an invitation to a consult or an invitation to download something, a next step action. On a website, if you have a blog tab, then you've got your blog, you've got to use that real estate on the right or the left side to share your free gift, to offer a consultation, to give people other ways to get in contact with you. That makes sense, Judy?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Cool. What other questions have we not answered? Lisa, I know you were kind of here getting back into it today. Any questions? Or Laura joined us.
Another, if no one has a question, I have another question.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so does anyone use a quiz or an assessment on their website as a free gift? And I'm looking for an app that, depending on the way the question is answered, sends them a different email from me versus different results. Do you know what I mean?
Has anybody used a quiz? Teresa, you haven't ever done a quiz with your archetypes, have you?
No.
That would be so
Good idea.
That would be an awesome one for you. I actually, Judy, I've got quite a bit of experience with assessments. I was the COO for a coach at one point for a couple years that developed a product that was quizzes, online quizzes that were used primarily for lead generation to turn them into consults. And they can work. And this was like mid 2000, like 2011, somewhere in there. So it was quite a while ago. Assessments are not working as well today as they used to as free gifts.
Oh, okay.
They can work. They're a part of in my opinion, they're part of a bigger strategy. Has anybody heard of Ryan Levesque?
Mm-hmm.
He has a program called Ask.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole approach is about segmenting your audience and using a form of assessments to start that process of segmenting your audience. And I've played with a lot of his his approaches, and I think they've got a lot of merit. He has an actual software. You were talking about an app. He has an actual software, and I can't remember what it's called now, Quiz.io or something like that.
Mhm.
But if you search for Ryan Levesque, I can find it if you're interested in learning more about it.
I read his book, the book he wrote.
Yeah, it's a great book. So
I thought
that's,
it was horrible.
oh, did you? I thought it was a great book. What did you think was bad about it?
Okay, the first half of the book was an autobiography.
Okay, well that's true. Okay, you have to get back.
Then the second half of the book was a sell, and it was really annoying for me. I rarely throw away books, but I threw that one away.
Really? See, I read it from the standpoint of learning his questioning process.
Yeah.
So anyway, I already knew him, if you will, at that point. But anyway,
Yeah.
there are a lot of other quiz softwares out there
Uh-huh.
that work really well. I use one right now actually for a quiz that I did on finding your ideal price point for a product, and it's called Outgrowth. Don't know that I totally recommend it, but it worked well for what I was doing with this assessment that I did. But if you're really interested in talking about assessments, I have a couple others that I would recommend that we look at. Jane Duber does have a system for it. That's actually the one I was referring to, Lisa. I helped actually launch that. It's called Value. I think they changed the name of it. It used to be called Value Quiz, and it's called something else now. And I have to be honest, I love Jane, and Lisa knows Jane. I don't recommend it because they changed the software. So you have to pay just to integrate it with Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign, and it just got too expensive. So I don't, unfortunately, recommend it right now. But yeah, so assessments can be valuable if you're in a place. They're not as valuable as a cold lead generation. They're better a little bit farther in the funnel when you have somebody that's a little bit warmer
Okay.
than as a cold lead generation.
As the first free gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings up a question. If you're done, Judy, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
What is the hot opt-in these days?
Yes,
What
Sherry,
is it?
tell us.
Yes. Well, so remember that with free gifts, the objective is to give people a resource or tool that answers a small, relatively isolated problem that they have. So it has to be instant gratification. It used to be ebooks. You know, people were writing like 40-page ebooks. You do a 40-page ebook right now, I guarantee you nobody will read it. What's working right now are things like checklists, templates, lists, like 5 things to improve your XYZ. That are short and simple. Answer a specific, the challenge is creating a contained problem. So it has to be a relatively easy problem in order to do something. Checklists are probably my favorite right now because people love to check things off a list and say, yes, I have this, yes, I don't. Which, by the way, it can be close to an assessment, Judy.
Right.
So like right now I have the location independent business checklist. In essence, I could turn it into an assessment tomorrow because it goes through the segments of creating your business and do you have this in place or not? So it's kind of is an assessment without calling it an assessment.
Got it.
I have a quick comment on that. So my free gift on Facebook is that download, and it ends up being a total of like maybe 7 pages, but they're not like big longs. It's easy, fast read because they have an intro and an outro page. And the majority of people, and I'm starting now to do a survey when I get a consultation, is like, hey, did you read it? And, you know, most of them are like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's all good. You know, that's not the point. The point is I got you on the call, of course.
That's right.
But I just wanted to put that out there is that that's actually a question I'm going to start asking everybody when I get on a call with them.
Yeah.
To get an opportunity. And so what I did is what we didn't do initially, Sherry, is I made a trigger for the download. So if they download it, I'm now triggered that they actually downloaded it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm seeing that this one woman, like she actually went back to go download it. Cause I said, you know, you really ought to check that out. And so she did, but yeah. Most people don't.
I do the same thing. I ping them when they click on the download in the email, so I know. And by the way, that's just an aside. That is why you don't want to put your download on the thank you page. That's why instead of putting the actual link to download it on your thank you page, you put the invitation to a consult. because people are right now, you got them with whatever you had, and for whatever reason you got them to the opt-in page, they said yes. So they're much higher likely to say yes to getting on a call with you right then than they are when they can click on download and then get distracted, not look at it, not see the invitation to a consult on the final page. Cool.
So this inspired me to make a highly sensitive person's kind of like survival guide checklist.
Yes. I think that would be perfect for you.
Okay, cool.
Yep, that would be perfect. So Laura, I know you had to join late. Say hi. Tell us what's going on.
Yes, I'm happy to be joining. And so what's going on is my group program started last week, but I pushed it off to this week. And I actually have one more mom who's a yes, and I'm working to switch the time around. So it might start a different day this week that I'm nailing that down. And I have one more consult booked for tomorrow for a mom that I was like, oh, can you give me some input? So Sherry, you're asking, can you give me some feedback?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's really cool to be able to hear. So one of my former clients gave like feedback and like stream of consciousness. It was awesome to see like it all mixed together. And then she was like, maybe we should talk. So I love that she initiated that conversation.
That's
so,
great.
I'm really excited about that. And then my commitments, I'm going to say it out loud so I can begin to own more and more of it, is to be consistent in how I'm communicating within the group. And so Sherry and I worked on a structure where I can actually send out an email on Mondays and then remind people I'm going to be live on Tuesdays, and send out a link on Wednesday. Hey, did you catch the live? And just be able to put it in that format. And like Sherry's too on Tuesdays, like, okay, I've got this because I get to be in front of them. I'm celebrating that my group is over 1,000 people, so that's exciting. And I'm celebrating that it's still like it's very active. There's a lot of there are a lot of questions that come up, and it's so cool to be able to read the messages. So it just occurs to me that I should have Nicole look through the messages where people are like, I got so much value from this group, and really begin to put that together, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah. Have her take screenshots of those. Social proof is becoming much more effective in a lot of ways than even like written testimonials. I won't say the video testimonials, but having somebody send you a written testimonial, being able to take a snip of a Facebook post from someone saying how awesome your coaching program, whatever it is great to put on your sales letters and thank you pages and that kind of thing.
Right. And so the fact that it's a private group just means that I need to be clear that there's no names or identifiers in it. Correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Or ask permission. And most people I will give you permission unless there's something really personal in it.
Yep. Excellent.
Cool. Thanks for that. Last questions. We covered a lot of ground today.
Yep. Question. Okay. Last question.
Go for it.
Do any of you use a content tracking system to track your social media posts or your newsletters when you send it out? All of that.
So that would be like the tracker that's in, I can't remember which lesson it is in module 6. There is a tracker that's in there. I find it's hard to get people to use it, I have to admit, but it is very effective to plan out your content over a month. I don't know, Teresa or anybody else, have you looked at it? I know Laura, at one point we did use it a little bit with you.
I don't think I understand that completely, tracker. Maybe it's the language.
Yeah, so basically we were talking earlier about like repurposing content. So it's a way to document how you're going to engage with people using different types of content and different vehicles throughout the month, let's say. So it's an Excel file that has, you know, the type of content, where you're putting it, when it's going to be posted, that kind of thing.
Oh, so like, for example, like Instagram has platforms that you can, like that send out your stuff and tracks it.
Well, that would be different. That would be a tool that you use to actually implement the Instagram portion.
Oh,
On
okay.
a content tracker, you typically would have all of the different things you're using. So you'd have your email, your social media posts, and whether it's Facebook or Instagram or YouTube video, you'd have, you know, if you're doing tweets, you'd have all the different vehicles that you're using to communicate, where you're sending out content of some kind, and when you're doing it to whom, and you could do have
Okay.
one for your group and one for your own business.
Okay, thank
It
you.
seems
Sorry, Judy.
overkill,
No, I
though.
don't use that. I apologize for taking up that time. I didn't
I wish
understand.
I was that organized.
I know, it seems like taking so much time to keep track, and you know.
What
Is it
I will say, Judy,
necessary?
is that it's really helpful when you're starting, because you can check off the list. So until you get into a group, like we talked quite a bit today about repurposing. So you write that first story-based email,
Yeah.
and then you know, and logically you know, okay, well, I can take some snips out of here and do social media posts, or I can post this on my blog, or I can turn it into a video or a Facebook Live. Will you do it if you don't have a structure and a tracker that says, today I'm writing the email and sending it out, tomorrow I'm taking social media posts and doing them over the next 5 days, Wednesday I'm doing a Facebook Live about this? Will you do it? So it's more of a tool to support, it's more of an accountability tool than anything in a lot of ways.
Sherry, I would like to add that I believe it's a productivity tool. And so this is one of the things that I teach to quilt shop owners across the country and everything else. If you don't do it, well, then maybe you'll be successful, maybe you won't. If you do it, you're gauging your productivity. And so I keep track of absolutely everything. And so the rule of thumb that I use is I use a Stay9, a square root. So if in a year I send out 200 emails, for example, I take the square root of that 200 and I analyze that many pieces, and I in-depth analyze what was successful about it, what was unsuccessful about it, what was my open rate. With that productivity tool, when you gather that, you find out, you know, on that video, that got more opens than anything else. What was it? Was it the content? Was it the timeliness? Teresa Campos mentioned that she loved what you did with the women's suffrage. Was it the content? If it is, I need to do more of that.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you need to do more of until you analyze how it went.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing the productivity piece, you know, in a big organization like where Sherry was before, where she was a COO, that's what she did.
Mhm.
She analyzed what worked, you do more of that. What doesn't work, you do less of that. And when we're small, we think we've got our hands on it all, and we just kind of intuitively know what works. We don't even come close.
I think that's brilliant, Teresa. And in fact, it reminds me, even like with Teresa Campos, one of the things we talked about last week was measuring the conversion from your consults, your appointments, to no-shows to actual clients. If you don't track that, you don't have a way of gauging what's working. I would separate a little bit what Teresa Kanan was saying from the content tracker, because there's two purposes. There's the contract tracker from a planning standpoint of what am I going to do, and there's the content tracker from a results standpoint. Okay, and if you're tracking nothing else, if you never put on paper how you're going to use and communicate through the month, if you're not tracking open rates, if you're not tracking click-through rates, then you're missing huge opportunities.
So I use that contract tracker, like you're saying, Sherry, to plan, but then I take it that step further to analyze, and then it comes back into the next plan. So if it's what went better, then I go ahead and I import that for the next piece to know what to do next.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. Cool. Any other questions? It's the top of the hour before we say goodbye. Okay, can you believe it? We are moving into September. So this is the ninth month, the last month of the quarter. Let's make it huge. And I think it's going to be a great month. I know it's going to be a great month. And our call is somewhat early this month. I think it's late this month. because I think the first Tuesday is, nope, it isn't. I'm incorrect. It's the 8th, so it's just a week into the month. So we'll see you back here on the 8th of September. If any questions come up, most of you will have one-on-one calls with, but if I don't, hotline to Sherry. I'll look forward to hearing from you. And I'm going to close with Elena Thursday at midnight. Send me a message. Those stories are written.
Will do.
Okay, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.
Goodbye.
Thank you.